is Real Life with Susan Harf. Hi, I'm Rose Martin, and thanks for joining me for tips and advice of how we can live our very best life. Let's see what's on her mind today. Hi, Susan.
Hi there, Rose. I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy to see you too. And today we are talking about how to diffuse an argument.
Oh, that's a good one, Susan. That's a good one. Diffuse an argument. Now, is it family, work? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And just for the sake of me knowing how I wanted to talk to you about it, I've had a couple arguments just for research sake.
Right, of course.
Not because I had them, I didn't want to. Okay, so I want to approach this subject giving a few tips.
Okay.
Because none of us get into an argument willingly. None of us say, I woke up this morning and I'm dying to have an argument with somebody. We kind of find ourselves there. Mm-hmm. And that in and of itself is something that we can work on. Because if we, instead of not thinking about this issue ahead of time, if we instead say, people are giving us the best they got, and not just say it, but believe it, if you believe that people are giving you the best they got, then you are less likely to argue with them.
Let me sit with that for a minute. If I'm believing that they're giving me their absolute best, then I guess I give them the benefit of the doubt and yeah, you walk away. Okay.
You give them the benefit of the doubt because you don't believe that they're trying to do you in.
Right.
And during an argument, it's hand-to-hand combat. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you behave aggressively. Some people behave very passively in an argument. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you say or do or think certain things. But an argument in some ways is hand-to-hand combat, and what I mean by that is you're there to win.
And then get the last word.
You're there to get the last word, and you're there to win. And one of the things that I say to people right off the bat is, can you assume the stance? Are you willing to assume the stance that people are giving you the best they got? That's number one. And number two, when you are in this discourse, are you willing to say that I don't really know how I got here, and they probably don't know how they got here either. This was nothing that we set out to do. And so if you're sort of willing to suspend that, then that notion that they set out to do you in, then the other thing that you're willing to do is to suspend the notion that you gotta win. Because what I say to people instead is, do you wanna be right or do you wanna be happy?
That's good.
Oftentimes,
right or happy? Okay.
Oftentimes, now if my husband's listening, he's saying she wants to be right. And sometimes I do.
Right.
However, being right does not always make us happy. Mm-hmm. Because we do it at the expense of the other person. And so if we can secondly, if we can suspend the notion that someone's got to win, it will help us navigate the discourse. And it may be less than hand-to-hand combat.
What about if you start out mad and before you even start the argument, what can you do to diffuse it before it even gets started and then you have to deal with the fallout? That is not as easy because, and there are other things that we can talk about related to I'm mad and I can't get over it. In fact, I want to do that topic. Okay, we'll do that, yeah.
But in the case, we're speaking about now the case where you're in it.
You're already in it, okay.
You're in it, and you didn't want to be, but you're in it. So one of the things we've already talked about that we need to think about, do we really need to win? Can we be happy instead of winning, which isn't necessarily mean that we get our way. Mm-hmm. It means we get happy, but not necessarily get our way, because sometimes we're happier when both of us are happy. Another trick is try listening. Now, I know that sounds like, oh, that's lame. Of course, we're always listening. We have ears.
Or listening for what you're going to say as a comeback, right?
How often do you find yourself thinking, I wish they would stop talking because I want to talk now? I do that.
I do too.
I do it.
I do too.
I got something to say. Stop talking.
And it's important. And it's important. It's
important.
really important.
Listen to me. I even say,
Right.
listen to me.
Yeah.
Okay? And you know what? Even if you don't say, listen to me, the other person knows when you're thinking, could you please be quiet so I can talk now? They know you're thinking that by your body language, by what you say and what you don't say. If you say what I do, which is listen to me, then they know. But oftentimes we don't say that. We pretend that we're listening and we're not. Have you ever said to somebody, you're not listening. You're not listening to me. How did you know they weren't listening?
Right, and body language, almost like ready to jump in to try to say something, or deciding to lose eye contact and write stuff down.
How about this?
Yeah,
They're
phones, yeah.
They're on the phone and they
Yep.
say, I heard every word you said.
Right.
But that's not the same thing as the kind of listening we need to do when we disagree.
Oh, so what's the difference?
The difference is what we call active listening. So active listening is when you give the person with whom you're speaking the benefit of knowing that you heard them. And the way you do it is not like a robot, but you repeat to them what you heard them say. And the reason this is so vitally important is because sometimes we hear something that they really didn't mean. They meant something else, but you heard wrong. And we all hear based on our own value system and where we came from up until this moment. So you may hear something differently than the next person or different than what they meant.
Or if I've got a preconceived notion going into the argument or the
Exactly.
fight, and I already think I know, like why you did it and everything, and I'm going to resolve this right now. So that judgment could really impede, and you could be totally wrong.
Exactly. So the way to find out is you make an active listening statement to the person. And you say it very succinctly. You don't need to go on and on. And what you're not trying to do is if you said, the tree is green, and I say, so the tree is green. That's a bit much. The person's going to know that you're trying a technique on them.
Right.
So we don't want to do it that
And then
way.
you'd say, okay, forget it.
Right. But say something to me about how you feel about anything.
I'm really looking forward to the weather changing because it's cooler days and I can get outside and enjoy nature in my yard.
So you're telling me that you really love it when the weather's a little bit warmer and you can get out there.
So you're validating the things that I'm saying, and I know you heard me. I mean, I listened and
Did that-
hearing. Right.
Did that comment
Right.
I made make you feel like I heard you?
Yes. Yeah. You said warmer and I said cooler.
Oh, you said cooler?
So I said cooler. I liked it cooler, and I'm like, I don't really like it really warm. I don't really like
So
it
I
warm.
wasn't listening.
So you
I wasn't
got that.
listening,
So you
Rose.
got that. But the outside part was really good. But I really like it a little cooler,
You know
not
why
so warmer.
You know why I said warmer?
Because you like it warmer.
Because I like it warmer.
Okay.
So I assumed you said warmer. Okay, that's a really good example. Okay, tell me something else. Let's see if I can get it right, Rose.
Oh,
Tell me something else. A feeling that you have.
A feeling that I have is dread when I'm heading to work on Route 81, not knowing if it's going to be a smooth drive or I'm going to be stuck in traffic.
So you're telling me that you really don't love the ride into work.
When there's traffic. But I do love it when it's calm and people are behaving themselves and I can listen to the radio and I can just think or decompress. So it's just heavy traffic times are what get me.
So what you're really saying is sometimes you really like being alone in the car and you like having that time to think about either life or nothing.
Yes, that's it exactly.
So do you see how it took us a couple times to be able to really get it right? And in the first example, I didn't get it right. I was thinking about warm, you're thinking about cold.
Yeah.
So that is why it's so important to give an active listening statement telling the person, there's two reasons. One is you're telling the person, I'm really trying to do my best here. I'm trying to listen to you. And two, you might be wrong. You might be wrong with what you thought you heard, and it's usually based on how you would have interpreted the statement and what feels comfortable to you, which is not always what feels comfortable to them.
So is that good to use not only in an argument sense, but just in general conversation to,
Yes.
in conversation when you're talking to people and you're listening to people, not like every single thing they say, repeat it,
Correct.
but as a general rule of thumb to show active listening and care for each other's, I guess, comments and ideas.
Yes, it is. It is a very good technique to use in most conversations. It's especially good because in an argument, because when you're having a discourse with somebody, when you're having an argument, you feel unheard. That's why it's turning into an argument.
And that's why the voice is raised, right? Because like if you're not hearing me when I'm talking in a normal voice, I'm just going to yell a little bit. And I'm going
As
to be
though-
louder and faster.
As though that's going to help.
Right. Which
Of course,
doesn't.
it's not going to help.
Right.
But that's where our psyche takes over, and we say, well, they're not listening to me, so I'm going to talk louder, like you said. What happens during an argument when you use this is it slows it down, and it makes the person understand, yes, I am with you. I'm trying to be with you. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I'm going to take that interim step. Before I tell you more about how I feel and what I want, I'm going to take this interim step of listening to you and moreover, letting you know that I'm listening to you. Instead of, yeah, I heard you. Yeah, I have ears, don't I? That's not the same thing.
Is it good to take time then and to say, well, let's take a few minutes and both calm down, or let's revisit this when we're not, so the emotion isn't right here. Is that valuable in an argument along with the listening, or doesn't really matter?
It's a great question because people who come together and people who argue often need different things when they are having a discourse. One of you might need time and one of you might want to do it right now.
Okay.
There are people who can't go to bed angry, and I want to talk about it now. I want to get it over with. I want to resolve this. And then the other person might be the opposite. They might be somebody who says, I need to think about this more. You need to give me some space. I need to understand how I feel before I can talk to you about how I feel. So in that case, one of you has to compromise. And it's usually the person who wants to get it over with now. Because the person who wants to get it over with now is having a difficult time handling their emotions, and that's why they want to get it over with now. Let's resolve this. But they aren't going to forget the emotion. So the reason why they are more apt to be the person to compromise is because the person who needs to think about it doesn't know how they feel. Sometimes people are very in touch with their feelings and others are not. And so the person who isn't as in touch with how they feel or how they want to talk about how they feel is the one that needs time. So I usually suggest that you acquiesce to that person. If they want a night to think about it and say, let's regroup in the morning. On the other hand, when you do that, then if you're the person that needed the time, you can't take advantage of the person who wanted to get it over with, because be aware that they're still in knots.
They've been perseverating on that all night.
Yes, they have.
And need to resolve it. So
Yes.
you've got your time, then be respectful and deal with it.
Yes.
And
Now,
that's not always easy.
it's not always easy at all. Having said that, dealing with the issue of time, I find another tip that helps when you're in the middle of an argument, in addition to active listening, is wait 10 seconds before you say anything.
That seems like a long time when you're fired up, doesn't it?
It does, and what you can do is in your mind count. And you will, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but you're going to take the person off guard. What I do mean about that is you're going to give them time to realize you don't want to be in hand-to-hand combat. So if someone has said something to you that is in some way prickly, and you don't respond right away, and they, especially if they are used to you responding right away, what do you mean you said that? I can't believe you said that. Instead, 1, 2, 3. If you're counting in your mind, what you're doing is you're giving that person time to cool off, as well as yourself. And then if you respond with an active listening statement, you're even better off, because you've now given both of you time to chill, and then you're responding with, I hear you. I am with you. I'm not just in my own head. I'm with you. And then you make your counter so-called argument.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much to Susan for teaching us how to diffuse an argument with some really, really wonderful steps. If you'd like to reach Susan or suggest a topic or make a comment, you can always reach her by emailing reallife@blueridgepbs.org. Until next time, let's go out and live our best lives.